All right, all right. Hey, how are you? Welcome to episode 21 of the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. I am SuboneKD, joined by the ever illustrious J007tv. Jay, how are you?
I'm very good, man. How are you?
You know, I'm doing all right as long as I'm not playing Warzone, going to be honest. But yeah, doing pretty well. I am kind of gearing up to try and get back into it. I've actually been off for about 2 or 3 days, so excited for that. Jay, how have you been? How's your you got something to tell us about? I think a little update.
Yeah. So, I did, or I don't even want to take the credit. My space was renovated, right? And the whole time before that happened, I said I was looking to switch over to mouse and key because I will then have the room, which I did not have as it was set up before. Um, Now that I do have the room, I bought a keyboard. I still have my mouse from the first time I tried it, so I've been doing a lot of work, trying to learn mouse and key. Um, is it something that I'm going to stick with forever? I don't know. I can't say, but it is something that I want to. It's a skill that I'd like to master or at least get good at because, I respect people that are able to play on mouse and key. It's hard. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of benefits to it, but there's also a lot of things that kind of go against you too. Just, I guess, like any
Mm-hmm.
other, input. But, I'm usually starting out the day in aim labs and doing some aim training there. And we're going to talk about the state of Warzone a little bit later, but what I've been doing is jumping into zombies for a little while and killing a
Mm.
bunch of zombies, just trying to move around, those kind of things. And then hopping in and playing Plunder. And I've actually had a lot of fun playing Plunder. Like, I don't find my blood pressure going up, not just because of the game, but because, learning a new input. So I'm obviously not going to be good. I'm going to probably be a trash can at it for a while. So yeah, that's just kind of how I've been doing it, and I'm thinking I'm going to dip my toes into some Fortnite at some point
Okay,
too.
yeah, great. Well, I mean, it's been an interesting journey through Modern Warfare 3 and um, and the Modern Warfare 3 era of Warzone. Um, but uh, but one thing that has happened since the acquisition by Microsoft of Activision is Call of Duty for the first time actually mentioned the phrase skill and matchmaking in the same document, referring to one another. Yeah, they actually said back in November that they were going to talk about skill based matchmaking, which got everybody in a tizzy. And then, of course, nothing happened for a few months, and everybody got very upset that we hadn't heard anymore. And so earlier this week, they actually dropped a blog post on skill based matchmaking, which to me was spectacular. I thought that was an excellent thing for them to do. Now, we've been, the COD community has been in a tizzy ever since that. I think that's the best way to put it. About what it means and whether or not they're being truthful or honest. Jay, did you have a chance to read through that post?
I did read through the post. There were some things that were a little surprising to me, and we talked about this on our emergency episode that we did
Mm-hmm.
on. I think what was it, Monday, that we did an emergency episode, and we put that out on our
Yeah.
YouTube channel, by the way, Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast YouTube channel. So go check it out. That's the only place you're going to find that episode at the moment. But really, the thing that stood out to me was just there are things that you and I have discussed, and we've been public about what we thought for were considerations for the matchmaking, and I'll be damned if they didn't confirm a couple things. But then they also threw in a couple other wrinkles that I hadn't really considered. Like, I didn't really think that they would include input in that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought platform might be a possibility, but when you start talking about the input side of things too, and keep in mind, like we discussed, this is only for the matchmaking system for multiplayer. So, Warzone has got a whole heck of a lot more other factors to consider. So, I think that the matchmaking blog post that we saw is with the details in that is really only going to be the infrastructure or groundwork for what the matchmaking system is going to be like for Warzone. What stood out to you the most?
You know, I'll be honest, it felt like a confirmation of a lot of things that we already had figured out, which in some ways is good, in some ways it's frustrating because, you know, for a lot of people, we want to know all the things, right? We want the details. We want to know what percentage of this, how to do that. You know, what should I look for if I'm getting this kind of lobby? And part of it is we'll never know that because that's the secret sauce, right? Like McDonald's doesn't give away its secret Big Mac sauce, right? Like, you know, it's just not the way it works. Um, and so we will always not have enough information. Um, but at the same time, it in some aspects it felt like it was too little information, and I think that is where a lot of people start diving into their frustrations, continued frustrations. And so I think the blog is good, and I think it's a good first step. It's a good first step into something that honestly should have been discussed 4 years ago when they implemented the system with 2019. As you and I talked about that, you know, it's pretty. It's I think most people are comfortable stating that this current iteration of matchmaking came into effect with 2019, Modern Warfare 2019. So I would like to, and they do promise this. They do say that at the end of the blog post, they say that we have a white paper coming, which details, the issues about ping and the issues about, what was the other issue? There was another issue that they were going to throw in the white paper, and it's yeah, ping and matchmaking is what they called it. And so I think something like that, where they hopefully will explain a bit more about when they let other factors affect your connection and why. And I think that's the sort of information we need.
Well, see, I don't think other factors should affect your connection. Either you have a good connection and are close to the data center, and your ping is good, or it isn't. Nothing else should be, aside from who your internet service provider is, something like that. Like from a hardware or like ISP standpoint, I don't think anything else, no other kind of you know manipulation or anything like that should happen with the ping, in my opinion. Like, don't throttle it, don't increase it based on any other factors other than the strength of your signal and how close you are to the data center. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that when you get into the nitty gritty of it, like, it's nice to say, but then it's like you are going to always have a strong ping, right? You and I play it, when we play with each other. I'm sitting at usually like 60, 70 when we play because, I'm in California, you're in Texas,
I'm in
and
5.
yeah, you're at 5 ping, right? You're basically hugging the data center, and I'm
Sure.
over here taking a horse and buggy to get to you. Um, but, if you think about that in terms of like the greater, the more common scenario of you have people across, across a region, right, that are all served by the same data center. It might not make sense from a balancing standpoint to give one person a significant advantage, because of their geographic location, right? And this is different. And you have to keep in mind that this is different how COD used to work in the past. In the past, the server connection was hosted on somebody's console or their PC, right? We didn't have a dedicated data center that everybody played through. They played, somebody was host, and then everyone's connection went through that person. And so you could get people across, however they did their matchmaking back then, and you could group people together in a region and have a relatively comfortable ping for everybody because you're geographically grouping the players. And unfortunately, with dedicated data centers, that's more difficult, right? Because if you're in Texas and somebody else is in Ohio, right, you might be the closest data center to them, but that means they will always play at a disadvantage simply because of where they live. And maybe that's why you shouldn't live in Ohio, but it's kind of one of those things of, if you're trying to balance the game for everyone to play, there has to be a way of balancing geographics, geography, geographics.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that there would be an easier way to do that too, like you're saying. But the other thing I wanted to point out too is I think that the order that they put these things in based on my experience alone, and that may be anecdotal. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, but for them to put um connection first, time to match second, and then number three, the following factors are also critical, and then they drop the skill and the performance section down on the list. To me, that based on what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, how the games play, the state of everything lately, it feels like if anything is weighted more than anything else, it's that's weighted more than all the other factors. Is what it
Well,
feels
I'll,
like to me.
well, I'll tell you right now. I actually think that connection. I think these things don't work. They're describing systems, and this is what I hope this white paper elaborates on. I think they're describing systems that in their head work a certain way, and in our heads, and like when we think about it, they work. We expect them to work completely different.
Well, and the
So,
execution is probably not exactly how they thought it would work either.
well, I don't know that that's true. I think they might have this working properly, and that the design, like calling it connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
In their head, when they talk about connection, they're not probably talking about your specific connection. They're probably talking about the connection of the lobby overall.
Maybe they are. Maybe they are. But the one thing that does go down to the individual part of it, though, is the skill and the performance
Mm-hmm.
side of it. Like that's, and I think that they're waiting. In the way they worded that part of it too, they made it sound like the cumulative part is the bigger factor. And then they're like, oh, and I'm paraphrasing. We also look at like recent matches, and that's just it. It doesn't seem like that's true to me.
So, yeah, looking through what they say, the skill set. So I think that bottom chunk where they have all the bullet points, I don't believe that chunk is in any way like a hierarchical order. I think that it's just like here's a list of things that we consider, and I think even for them, I think they might change the like they might change which one of those is most important on the fly. Like it could actually even be tailored to you specifically. You're dropping straight 20s, like you obviously the skill needs to become more important for you. Um I don't know. There could be a lot of different ways in which that is more flexible than we think. But I will say that I think one of the most important things that they are considering is time to match. I think that is a critical one, and I'll tell you why. Because VPNs work, and so I think time to match. I think it's one of those things of like connection. I think is like a geofence, right? It's not gonna. If you're in Texas, it's gonna try and keep you in Texas. If you're in, if you're in, Colorado, right? It might test out a couple of lobbies and try and create that perfect match, like perfect lobby for you. But so it might bounce you to different servers. Like I personally get bounced around between California 1, California 2, Washington, and LA pretty regularly when we're playing, and so it's definitely like there's limitations on connection, right? I don't get sent, I don't get sent to Singapore, for example, right? Even though that might have the perfect skill based match for me. So I think when they say connection, they're creating like a wider net of like, all right, here's your maximum parameters. You won't have a connection higher than X number of milliseconds as an individual player. But time to match is something that I've seen work watching people run a VPN, which basically just times you out. That's what it does. It times you out, and then they just stick you in the first available lobby. And I think that's one of those things that like tells me that they put a lot of emphasis on getting you into a match within a certain amount of time.
I think that if they could pull, so ideally, like okay, so we know this type of matchmaking manipulation, whether you want to call it SBMM, EOMM, whatever, it's not going to go away. It's cracked to these corporate publishers now, because they think that's the secret sauce for profits. So essentially, what they're doing is they're manipulating everyone's experience for profits, which normally I wouldn't have a problem with, but the way they go about it, explaining to them that profits and retention don't equal satisfaction and the sentiment of your game. And I'm almost wondering if maybe here in a few minutes we should cover the state of Warzone, bump that section up and talk about that, because I think that those two things have a direct correlation to each other, based on what I'm seeing and the people that I'm talking about. But ideally, if they would take out the recency part of it, take out the recent games part of it, and or make it a larger sample size than whatever it is right now, I could probably deal with that. It wouldn't be as big of an issue. But like I said, and we've talked about this before, and you mentioned it earlier too, this type of matchmaking system was really noticeable starting in 2019. I don't ever think that I ever even thought about that before 2019. And then we started hearing about SBMM and then EOMM. And for those of you that don't know, EOMM is engagement optimized matchmaking. But if they just would take the recency part out of it, I think that it would be a lot better and weight it more on, connection, I guess time to match, which truthfully, I'd be okay with a longer queue time if they just have a better matchmaking algorithm. Personally, I would be able to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I get what they're saying. I play with some guys that tend to be very, oh, you have to get up and go do something. Great, you got 28 seconds, and I started that timer 15 seconds ago. And we're sending it, right.
That's why I'm glad.
And
I mean, too.
And it's like a lot of these guys, like they will not wait. Like I've had buddies just drop out of the party so they could run, because it's like 2 minutes of me having to go take a leak or something. And they're just like, there's no patience for it, which, some people are just totally impatient, and I understand that. And so clearly if they wait it that much, there's a reason for it, and they probably have an understand, they probably have some understanding of like, hey, we need to have this, these matches go faster. And so I mean, I'll trust their data, I guess. Like, I don't have any actual like proof of like, oh, one is more important or it's not, right? I just have, the folks that I played with that absolutely cannot stand waiting, and like they will cancel and start matchmaking after like 8 seconds, which, maybe smart, maybe not, I don't know. But time to match, I mean, it's important to them. It's important to them enough that they rank it. They give it a ranking on this. Like, that should tell you something about how much they think it's that important. And they've got the information that we don't have. So, but when it comes specifically to the skill and performance part of it, right? I think that they do have too narrow of a window, and it's of like recent history that they take into account. And I think it's detrimental on multiple fronts. One, it's like you have one good game and it's like good night for the rest of your session. You're trashed. And I think we've both experienced that. But at the same time, if you have, it opens up the reverse boosting window of like, oh, I can just splat in the ground 2 or 3 games and I can, and then I have a shot to drop 25 or 30. Like, my KD can take that, no problem.
Yeah, well, and again, that's kind of what got me to thinking that I was right on the sample size part of it, because I got to thinking about it, and it's like, well, reverse boosting is predicated on, purposely getting shit on for like 2 or 3 matches and then having good matches after that because of it. So if that works, then I know that their system for that is going to be based off of the sample size aspect of it. But, and again, it's not that I have a problem playing people of my own skill level. I really don't. It's the fact that I'm thrown into lobbies that are above my skill level is where I have the issue. And, it almost ruins the experience, like, because it's like I almost can't even appreciate having a good game or two, because then I'm like, well, shit, now I know I'm about to get dumped on for the next hour.
Well, let's roll that into what the state of Warzone is right now. I mentioned it at the head here. I think I played like one game of Plunder last night, and that's my first game in like 2-3 days, and it's been difficult to get excited to get on.
They got to do something different, man. Whatever they're doing is not working, and yes, I can tell you right now personally, I am on the struggle bus. It seems like yearly since 2019 I go through these stretches where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And they're long stretches where when it's bad, it's just outright bad. This feels a little bit different though, because I also see other people that I know that stream and that play this game that are taking a break right now because the matchmaking is just absolutely fucked. And
Yeah.
it's gotten to a point where people are playing Fortnite, people are going and playing other games, and we're going to talk about one of those other games later, but like it's almost like it just takes the enjoyment out of the game. Now, however, I am playing more. I'm still playing because I'm trying to learn a new input, and I figure what better time to try to learn a new input and deal with the lumps from that than while I'm in a blender anyway. Who cares?
Yep.
Kind of thing. So that's why I'm playing. But I just know that like my patience with this game is running out, and sadly, I feel like it's just the matchmaking because I love the movement. I mean, the weapons do kind of suck. I don't really feel like there's any good weapons to run or anything fun like we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about before. And I'll let you talk about that if you want here in a bit. But like, yeah, like the weapons are not as fun to use. The matchmaking is terrible. I mean, it just feels unrelenting and just not fun at the moment. And I want to have fun playing the game.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've also pointed out in the past is I wonder how many players of lower skill levels are playing right now. We know sales, the sales that we have that have been made available to us are down like 40% year over year, which, I mean, you can't come off of a high sales and expect to like surpass it every year, which I understand, but a 40% drop is a lot of a drop. And, from the I'm not gonna call it data, but just from observing Call of Duty Twitter and observing the people that have bought and have not bought the game, it seems to skew towards a higher skill level player that purchased it and has played it more religiously, which is a good thing at the end of the day, because those guys are they deserve to be able to have fun. But I feel like the way the game is structured and with SBMM doing what it's doing, the matchmaking, I worry that the lower skilled players are not they're not logging the amount of time that they did maybe a year ago, and that's impacting the player base.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't feel like I am overall, but if I look at it statistically, I would fit in that lower skill bracket right now. With where I am statistically, specifically the last few days, with what the average KD is on the day, that kind of thing, and maybe they're not playing, but you know what? I think that with this matchmaking set up the way it is, I feel like it's sweaty for everybody. It's just a different level of sweat, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
those lower skilled people are still having to sweat their ass off in their lobbies too. Like it's never forgiving. And I mean, I think if you're on the bottom of the skill bracket, you're probably just kind of chalked for the most part anyway. You're never going to really get favorable matchmaking because everything's either going to be dead even and you're still sweating your ass off, or you're thrown in lobbies above your skill level. It's the rest of us that are right around the middle. I think the middle section of the player base is the one that's being impacted the most. And
Yeah.
I look at the leaderboards on the game, and I look at my friends, and I see several people on there that in previous iterations have had over a 1 KD or right at a 1, and they're rocking a 0.7, a 0.8,
Yeah.
a 0.6. Like, and those KDs, I'm sorry, I have a 0.83. By the way, you and I are right at the same number at right now, by the way. And
Awesome.
our KDs are not good. They are not good.
No.
Anything less than a 1 is not good. I'm sorry, it just isn't in my mind.
Well, I'm gonna toss this part in there that it's something that I didn't pay a lot of attention to because it doesn't affect me. Well, it does affect me, but it doesn't. I don't have the ability to experience it, but I did actually the other day. I haven't mentioned this to you yet. I got a chance to actually hear this game with Art of War's tuning installed on a decent PC with a decent set of cans.
How'd you do that?
My old man has a rig, and it's very nice.
Did you put his settings on the game?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I thought your dad did. I was about to say that's
No,
pretty impressive.
I did it for
Why
him.
aren't you fragging with him?
He doesn't play Warzone. He hasn't moved on from Black Ops 1. He still has a .2 KD there too.
Hey, listen, if he's having fun, so he's got to be what, 65, 70 years old?
Yep, he's up
That's
there.
Hey, listen, that's going to be us. At least I know it'll be me. I will
be there
the rest of my life. So,
but it's a different game, man. And when the audio is working, like we everybody says the audio isn't working. I disagree. It is working, but you have to have a PC and it has to be tuned right, because it is a completely different game. Like the Gulag in particular is where the audio is just, you might as well turn walls on if you don't have those tunings, because it's the only way you're going to be able to do well. Like I could tell, I have clips of people following me through the walls.
We talked
about me through the walls, and then I was playing. I only played a couple matches, but I was in the Gulag, and I could follow this dude. Like I knew where he was. It wasn't even a guess. There was no guess. I knew exactly where he was, and when he popped out the corner, I was pre-aimed on it. I was waiting for him. I knew he was there, and I knew he was coming, and my timing was perfect, and I blew him away, and I got you effing cheater. And it had, there were no cheats on it. It was just audio. And it is utter horseshit, in my opinion, that some people are able to play with this audio, and it's not available to everyone else. And I can't wrap my head around on why that's being allowed right now. But I think for a lot of us, and going back and looking at other clips where I seem to die for no reason, or where I'm losing the gunfight because someone's anticipating me ungodly well, and applying what I heard on that audio to that scenario, like, my God, there's no way. Like, there's no way that someone would, like, not know I was there. Like, you would have to be deaf with the way that audio can be tuned on a decent PC with a decent set of headphones. And I can't even, like, I can't wrap my head around how the game allows that to happen. It is a worse disadvantage than FOV on 80 FOV on console versus 120 on PC. It is worse than that disadvantage.
Well, so here's kind of the dilemma or conundrum that I'm in. I'm a stubborn guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a man of principle, and I could have that Art of War thing on my PC. I could. But my dilemma is that consoles can't have it. And while, yes, I spent the money to have better equipment, it still just feels like, it just doesn't feel right to me. Like, I don't feel right about doing it. And adding that on. And I feel like, since it's not available to you console players, I feel like there should be some way to ban it.
Well, I just don't know how you can, right?
Well, I don't know how you can either, and so that's my dilemma. I mean, I haven't decided whether I'm going to put it on there or not, but it feels cheese to me, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it's totally cheese. I mean, it's right up there with bouncing Betties on the buy station cheese.
But, I got a couple people I play with that do that.
Yeah, me. But it is, and this is where I want to be clear. Like, it's not cheating, because it's in the game. It's given to you, and the mix exists. and people that spend the money have the ability to upgrade it. So it's not like I'm sitting here being like, oh my god, you're cheating, right? But it's also BS, right? It can be both. So I think the difference is, unlike, it's not even a difference. It's like with FOV, right? Like, you didn't lock yourself at 80 FOV because consoles had to be, right?
That's true. I didn't. The day I got my PC and had it plugged in, I cranked that shit up to 120, and I ain't never looked back.
Yep.
Because that was the big thing. That was the big thing that I complained about on social media and in Discord and everything else, was the fact that console did not have FOV, and I felt like that was inherently unfair.
And I think you were correct in thinking that, but it is a disparity that's created by that's baked into the game. So it's kind of like, it's the same with like meta weapons. If you know, right, that the BAS-B kills faster than the M4, right? Why wouldn't you run the BAS-B? Like, if you could sit there and say, well, some people don't know that, and therefore, it's unfair of me to smoke them with the BAS-B. But it's not. It's just that's the effort and time and dedication you're putting in to know that.
Damn it! I'm gonna install this shit more.
But I just ordered that mixer, that console audio mixer that we talked about. I think it's coming in next week. So, we're all yeah, the Astro.
The mix
that
amp,
unlocks the mix amp, because that unlocks the Dolby mix, so I can mix on console.
You know what? So I don't have a huge audio issue, aside from audio things that are just outright not in the game for anybody, like parachutes, zip lines, sometimes ladders. I don't have a huge audio issue, and I think that might be because I'm running the mix amp already and have the Astro software.
It probably has defaults in there.
And well, it does. It actually gives you like there's different like settings you could choose from, like different types of audio that you want, different mixes, if you will.
Yep.
So yeah, different presets. That's what it is. Presets. Sorry. And on the mix amp, actually, you can choose between like 4 favorites and go, press the button 4 times and it'll go dot 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 and go down and everything. And I love my Astros. This is the headset I've had the longest, and I love the mix amp and everything.
Yeah. Well, no, and so I think it's important when the tools are available, it's important to use them. Like, I think that you're foolish if you don't, right? Like, yeah, okay, if you want to make a point not to, and you want to specifically play with off meta just because you're good enough that you don't need it, fine. Like, I love it. I approve. Like, you get guys that play the game with a recorder, right? Or a Wii U remote or something, right? Like that, right? Like bongos. There's a guy that plays with the bongos, right? Blah, 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 blah. And he gets kills and has fun. And you know what? Cool. Like, I 100% agree. Like, I think that's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to it's fun for him to do. It's a challenge for him. And I think that's if that's what you want to do on purpose, great. Like, you should. But I think if you have the ability to run the meta gun and you know what it is and you're capable of doing it, then you should. Like, if you don't, you're not going to perform as well. And so I think it's foolish. It's foolish of people not to, out of stubbornness.
See, I mean, we already discussed the whole meta thing. And like I told you, my shining moment in Warzone was when I fucking whacked a whole team of AUG users with my Kilo that had been nerfed 3 times. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, but I'm to a point where it's like I'm already struggling in the game, so perhaps I will. I'm seriously considering going ahead tomorrow and just looking at going through the steps and doing it, because, I mean, if it's going to help and it is not cheating, then so be it. I guess. I do feel bad about it, and I know I did say they should ban it, and I still think they should, but like you said, if it's a tool that's available to me,
I don't know if they should ban it, but they should fix it so that console has access to it. Maybe put an EQ in the game. Give everybody an EQ that we can mess with. Like, let us tune the sound the way we want.
I don't know, man. And here's why I don't think they could execute that. the combat record didn't work the last game, so I'm not entirely sure something as complicated as sound, you know. But yes,
I
like
yeah
partner with
yeah.
Dolby or whatever. But something else that you said kind of stood out to me too, and made me start thinking. Yes, when you have a PC, you can upgrade and do all those things. But okay, so who is Activision owned by?
Microsoft,
And what's the operating system on most PCs?
not Mac OS, that's for sure.
It's Microsoft. It's going to be a Microsoft product. I don't think, even though they make the Xbox console, I don't think they're going to go out of their way to help you know what I mean? I think they're going to encourage more PC sales, higher
Well, they don't
volume, those kind of things.
they don't use the Xbox as a it's not a platform that they're looking at as like a long-term solution. They're already considering other alternatives of like, you know,
Cloud
using the
gaming.
cloud gaming and other things. I think long term they're just not anticipating that consoles will be as primary a source, right? Like the Game Pass idea. You could play that, you can emulate and play that on anything. Like I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, PlayStation had Game Pass on it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Microsoft and Sony are playing nice at the moment. You never know.
But
If
yeah, I
Sony's
think it's
capable of playing nice, because
yeah,
apparently in none of their divisions they play nice really with anybody.
no. But so I think going forward the PC is PC gaming has roared back, especially in the casual genre. I think more people, especially after the pandemic, more people have access to a PC that's capable of running the game, and as they continue to provide more of an emphasis on it, I think that's just the way it's going to be going forward.
Yeah, you may be right. It'll be interesting to think back in 5 years and see if we're actually right about this stuff.
Yep. But yeah, that's so I don't know. I get into Warzone. I'm like, I haven't been this week as excited to log in as I have in the past. It's like, I've caught up on a couple of movies, and that's been nice. But I'm kind of letting things boil down, and hopefully, when the season refreshes, we'll have a better experience overall. That's my hope.
One other thing I wanted to mention, something that you did do this week that is greatly appreciated, my friend, is that Call of Duty care package that you sent me, man. I
Oh
can't wait
yeah,
to get it up. We're actually looking at shelving and stuff like that to get it up.
sweet,
Yeah, so it's going to go on this wall right back there,
love it.
where you can see it in the camera and everything. So, again, thank you for thinking of me, my friend. I
Yeah,
appreciate
of
it.
course, of course.
That was pretty dope.
Yeah, but in addition to the care package, we got another care package from Call of Duty this week.
Nice
Fort-
segue. Very nice. Golly, you're good at this.
Fortune's Keep was announced officially. Now we knew this was coming because in Next they said it was coming,
Sure.
and they would never say something's coming and then not deliver it for a year. PDS system.
PDS, how about weapons vaults? How about, like, where the fuck are those? Third person, that's gone. They give it,
Yeah.
then they take it away on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they'd get in trouble if they had third person in that Valeria skin running around. People would be a little too focused on the wrong thing.
Good Lord.
But that being said, yeah, Fortune's Keep returning officially on Wednesday, so a couple days from today, data recording, and it's. Have you taken a look at the map and some of the details, Jay?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I know that there's some, like, earthquake damage, I guess, for one of the buildings. And I mean, I gotta give you full disclosure. I've always been a big map guy. The map I've played the most, any kind of Rebirth or anything, I guess, would be Rebirth Island, mainly from when it was Alcatraz, because it was the same map, just ported over with a couple minor changes. And then Vondel, I played a decent amount of towards the end of Warzone 2. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know. I mean, I did play some Fortune's Keep. Again, I know somebody that worked on the map, so I wanted to at least check it out. And it seems like a decent map, but I just, the resurgence experience just isn't really for me at this point.
Well, we'll touch on the experience in a minute. But so one of the things they did is they busted this map open. So if you remember Verdansk, towards the end, they had big events going on, and they actually ripped the map open. Right, they had these big fissures that
Mm-hmm.
they built into it, and knocked some buildings down and stuff like that. So they've actually done a few things, and there's a couple of highlights that I think is really interesting. So they knocked down. It used to have a grotto, I think it was called. It was basically like a cave section under the southern mid section of the map, and so there were a couple of big rooms. There were some holes you could look down from the top and shoot people,
Mm-hmm.
or jump down, and there were lots of little options of ways to play the map. A lot of ways to get up and down, which honestly led to a lot of fun plays. I have a great win of me just tanking a gas mask deep in and coming up behind the last guy and just shooting him in the back from the gas, and he had no idea what was going on. It was glorious. But they've actually demolished that whole section. They collapsed it all, and they have sections. They have a new underground laboratory, so there's new POI under there, and then they've introduced some new features. So there's a section of the map which you can flood. I don't know if you caught that.
Push a button and then it floods.
And it floods. It fills with water.
That's pretty dope.
So you get. I guess it's probably a good way to, if you have people ratting out underneath, you could flood them out so they have to come up to the surface. So we'll see how that plays. But then they have these retractable bridges, like drawbridges.
I heard about that too. That's pretty cool.
And so you can go up and you can push the button and the drawbridge will open or close. So there's some features that are nice. There's some kind of a revamp of the map in a way. So it's not a 1-to-1 translation, which, to be honest, I think is good. I think if they just copy pasted the map back, it would suck. Like, it wouldn't suck, but it wouldn't be as fun. It wouldn't feel the same because it's not on the same engine. It's not the same game we had.
That's kind of the same thing we were talking about last week towards the end of our episode that we recorded, where we were talking about Warzone 2024, and rumor has it that Verdansk is coming back, and one of the things we discussed was, yeah, it's pretty much been confirmed it's coming back, and I'm pretty sure they're not gonna just copy and paste the same thing. Like, you can't treat a BR map like you do multiplayer, or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But
well, they've done. Yeah.
Well, they've
done
also shown, yeah, they've also shown like a good history of changing up the POIs and doing things like you were mentioning. And, you also got me thinking too, what if on the big map you could push a button up there on top of the cranes and turn them?
Move them.
And how dope would that be, bro?
It would be awesome. That would be cool. Things like that, I think, are fantastic. I think those are great ideas where you can move features. Like, it's got that dome, right? On the big map, has the dome hanging over, like it's like they're trying to put it in place.
Yes.
Imagine if you could lower that or raise that.
That would be awesome,
right? Like you had a team that was like on the rim there, and you could lower the dome and squish them. Like if they were like hard scoped and were not paying attention.
Sure.
Like, that would be hilarious. I would die laughing if I could do that.
That'd be dope.
It would just, and there's some other games like Fortnite kind of does it, and there's some other games where you can manipulate the map with actions that you do, like destructible environments and stuff like that. I think it would be interesting to include some of that in a Warzone map. And this is kind of like maybe the first foray into actually players getting to adjust the map as they play. And I think that would be a really interesting. I mean, Vanguard did it, but I didn't like how Vanguard did. I didn't like the way that they had it. Like, you had destructible crates and destructible doors in the multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of made it kind of a mess of the map, right? Like, so you couldn't play the map properly all the time. So, like, think about shipment, right? There are whole sections of shipment that you would just destroy the crate, and then it's like that whole section's like dead because there's nothing to hide behind, right? You're just standing there out in the open getting lasered.
the barrels that you can light on fire. But they're already doing that on the big map with the train.
Yeah.
That you can change directions on. I mean,
which I've been able to hop on and stop that thing and like get the buy station back, and it was like, it got us from like it got us into a regain, and like we went deep. I don't remember if we won that one or not, but it was like just being able to halt the train right as it goes into the gas and back it back out was clutch. So I think there's a lot of potential for that sort of thing. Hopefully they replace dynamic weather, because I like the idea of it, and it seemed like a cool idea on paper. And Fortnite has done stuff like that, where it's like the map will have like a rainstorm roll through, and it changes the look and sound of it, and then all of a sudden, like it goes away. And the fog on Vondel, I feel like they've screwed up because they've not made it go away. If that makes sense.
What if they just did it seasonally? Like during the summer, everything's like brown and like, just hot and crunchy or whatever. In the fall, everything starts to turn. And then in spring, it maybe rains a little bit, or is like rainy. But then in the winter, it's either snowy or has snowed.
I mean, I'd prefer it just like every time you load the map, it looks different.
I mean, that'd be dope too. That would be really awesome. Let me ask you this. Do you think that they're experimenting with that? It seems like they're experimenting with a lot of things because, all right, look at the Gulag. That configuration changes. It's a smaller scale, obviously.
Yep.
But I mean, it's a good way to get a reference point, right? That, they're doing the fog. They tried the fog in Vondel, those kind of things. And so, I mean, I feel like this is only year 2 on this engine, the start of year 2. I don't know that they really have reached its full capabilities yet, or have maximized the potential of it yet. There might be a lot more cool shit they can do in the future.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was kind of the point, right? Like they built the engine, they built this architecture to be flexible so that they can do different things. And I think that makes it better than the last one, because you have right now, I mean, they could probably make the game look and feel exactly like MW, the 2019 feel, but they're, for whatever reason, they're making choices to have it feel and play a certain way, and some of which they've gotten into, and some of which just is hypothetical on my part. But and we don't have to hash that out right now. But I think the ability for them to make it feel however they want is there, and stuff like the fog and the dynamic weather that they've showcased, they can do this stuff. It's not that they can't do it. We had the sandstorm, right? For
yeah, and Al Mazrah.
So I think it's interesting. I think you're right. They are playing with stuff. They're messing with the ability to do stuff, and I think that's great. I would just like to see them leverage it a bit more deliberately and a bit more expansively. And so these cranes and like the bridges and stuff, I think that's a good first step. And I think we're going to see a lot of mechanics like these roll into Verdansk. I think Verdansk, when it comes back, is going to have a lot of stuff that we never thought possible.
Well, like you said, it's even going to be different just having all the zip lines and stuff like that. The ways to get up, several ways to get up in some of those skyscrapers and things like that. I think that's pretty awesome. As far as like Fortune's Keep goes, so I was listening to Drop Shot earlier, and one of the things they were talking about is like there's areas on that map where there are a ton of buildings, but you can't actually get inside of them. They were speculating, or I think it was Tanner was speculating that perhaps they'll open those up, like be able to open some of those up where you can get in the buildings, which I think that would be cool. And, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and give Fortune's Keep an actual run, especially since they reworked it and things like that. I prefer big map, but you know what? That's turning into just a large scale resurgence anyway. So what difference does it make? I mean,
well, I think one of the interesting things that Fortune's Keep has coming that is going to really separate it out from like a true resurgence mode is actually ranked mode is rolling out And I know, not everybody who's a big map aficionado is thrilled to not have ranked roll out on the big map first. But I am curious to see how Fortunes plays under ranked conditions, and I wonder if it's going to feel um, a lot more like big map ranked than Resurgence.
I don't think it's I think you're right. That's exactly the point I was going to make. Is I don't think it's going to play as fast um, as Resurgence typically does, especially when you start playing rank. But the one thing all these Resurgence kids aren't really factoring in, I think they're
Mm-hmm.
in for a rude awakening, and here's why. Where do you think all the top 250 from Warzone ranked are going to go once that rolls out? They're going to be playing in lobbies with people like Brax and TP and those guys. Those guys are going to be in those lobbies. It's going to be a damn sweat. I think it's going to be sweaty, but I think the pacing is going to be a little slow in some parts. Especially once you get down in like the lower brackets. I think that top 250, iridescent, that I think they're going to play fast. They always play fast. They have to
Yeah,
anyway for
yeah,
the
because they
SR.
need the kills.
But I
So
think that silver, gold, platinum, and even into diamond, I think it's going to play. It's not going to feel like Resurgence.
no, I don't think so. I think especially some of the additions that they put in here, you have a death penalty,
Yep.
so you're going to get penalized for dying. And then there are now here's where I am confused, where I am not sure which way this is going to go, and I've heard three different versions of what they said here. So in terms of the SR that you get for kills, I'm just scrolling down to where they had it here because they talked about it, and I want your opinion on what you think they're going to do. Resurgence kills. Where's that kills? Well, come on, they talked about it. I know that I'm not crazy. They talked about it. All right, here we go. SR for kills and assists. So the SR you receive for kills and assists has been tuned based on the lower number of teams remaining. And here's where they get into this. So they say, oh, that's not the quote I wanted. Hold on. So our death fees. Well, they mentioned it here. They basically say that there's a SR per kill / assist, and then SR for non-assisted kill. Have you read that?
I think they're wanting to separate and take away the ability for the taps, right? So you get a knock, and then I come over and put a couple bullets in there, and then I get the same amount of SR. And what it seems to me like they're going to do is they're weight. It's probably going to be damage weighted. You know what I mean? Like I think they're going to weight it probably based on damage as to whether you get an assist or if it's counted as an assist, an actual assist, or if it's counted as just a tap.
Well, so assists have always, since Warzone came to be, if you put damage on somebody and they die, you get an assist for it.
Correct.
So they would have to change that mechanic completely. So listen to how. So for example, what they're talking about here is how many teams are remaining. So how many points you get, right? So
Yeah,
in the initial drop, in the initial drop, teams remaining 9+, right? So SR. So this is what they have. They say SR per kill / assist equals 5, which is what it's been. Okay. So you get a kill or an assist, you get 5. Then they say SR per non-assisted kill equals 2.
So I'm taking it as they're giving you only 2 points for a tap. And they're counting the finish as a kill, but it's not going to count as a kill statistically. It's not
Why
like
would
it's.
why would
I
they
think
call
it's
it a
fucked up.
non-assisted kill?
It's. I think it's fucked up wording. That's the
You
only
think
thing that
the
makes
wording
sense.
is wrong?
I 100% do. I don't think that makes sense because the whole point of it is they're tired of the taps. Like they're wanting to discourage the taps being such a major part of ranked and the SR distribution.
Okay,
So
let me turn that on its head. and put this scenario in front of you, and you tell me what you think. They want to get rid of people dropping in as a quad and splitting off and doing their own thing in ranked.
Well, rank's going
They
to be
want
trios only.
They want. Okay, well, you get, how many times you get somebody, you get a solo joins in and they run off and do their own thing, right? So think about this. In trying to get teams to play together, if you go off and you do your own thing and you kill other players unassisted, so you're not playing with your team, you're just going out for kills on your own, you don't get the full SR.
Well, that sucks, because how are they going to be able to track that? I mean, I can see them I can see them doing some shit like that. Like, and that doesn't make fucking sense to me why they would do that. I mean, or that I don't think they should, if we're being honest, because, okay, well then how do you differentiate between if your teammates are in the gulag and one guy's out and he's still fighting and getting kills? Like, how is that fair?
Well, so think about it, because it's resurgence, right? So you don't have gulag kills. And you don't have, and so the other aspect of this could be if so, like how there's that mechanic where, in ranked, if you remember last year, if you're alive and someone on your team gets a kill, you get some SR. Okay, so that could be that, right? So your team gets a kill that you don't assist on.
Maybe that's what it is, actually.
Okay? Could be that. Could also be, and I've heard this one too, could also be that if you kill someone unassisted, like you don't offer taps, you get bonus SR. And that's additional SR to your kill. So you would collect 7 instead of 5.
So
and
if
you're sharing
full
with your
kill, if you full kill, you get more points, which you probably should.
So in the final circle, right? Like, when it's all right, so you get 2 extra SR and you don't share the 5 with your teammate, okay? But like when you're getting late in the game, right, and there's a handful of teams left and it's 15 SR per kill and non-assisted is a bonus of 7, like that's 22 SR for not sharing with your teammate. That's that could make it or break it for you depending on what, where you are on the SR spiel, right? So it might encourage players to be a little more greedy and to break the camping and the stacking, right? Like, hey, I need SR and I need more than I'm going to get just trying to tap on your drops. I'm going to go out and do my own thing a little bit. I don't know, right?
So
like,
I think plausible would be that they're trying to discourage taps, but that 2 points for unassisted kill, I think that basically that, to me, that means it's basically, you and I are both alive. I'm in one building, you're in another, and you run into somebody and you kill them, and I get 2 points for that. You get all the points. You know what I'm saying? I think it's that, but they're also trying to discourage tapping.
Well, see, they still offer SR for assists. I think the taps aren't going anywhere. I think the taps are the same.
Yeah, but they're trying to discourage it not being as big a part of the SR distribution. Because there is a lot of times where I might only have 2 kills, in ranked, but I got 5 taps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, we all made sure, like, there's some people who didn't respect that. But we always tried to make sure our teammates got taps for it too. Was able to get a round or 2 in. So
yeah, I think it's one of the. I think the reason they do that is they try to encourage team play. They try to discourage players from like solo queuing with the specific purpose of like just going off and doing their own thing. And so, from a game design point of view, I think taps make sense, and it's one of those things of like, all right, can you abuse it? Sure. But is trying to cure that abuse, is that a greater benefit than just letting it ride and knowing that players that are contributing? Because so I take it from this point of view, right? Like if I have a teammate who's gunning at somebody and I turn and I help out, right, and I put it and I put a couple rounds in, I'm incentivized to do that because both of us get the credit. There's no like, there's no, oh, you stole my kill, right?
Yeah.
Or if somebody downs, if somebody's sniping and they hit it down, right? I'm incentivized to throw my airstrike on them because we both get our taps on it, right? Or to finish that kill off versus versus we've all known the teammate that will do this, right? You down somebody from a little ways away, and they get there and they watch them self res and they give it that half beat to get that 30 health back, and then they gun them for the kill, right?
Do you remember when Warzone first came out? OG Verdansk. There was a period of time, and it might have only been about a week. Dude, I got screwed out of so many kills because the people that were doing the finishing after my knocks were getting credit for my kills. In one night, my buddy Shadow took 10 kills from me. 10.
Yeah, I do remember that they changed that, and they implemented their current system pretty early on in Warzone, which I think actually frustrates me to all hell sometimes, but also I think is beneficial because I've benefited from it enough to know it's a good balance.
It's not consistent though. That's the one thing. Like I'll put 260 damage in a guy and I'll not get the kill, but then I'll put 50 damage in somebody else and then I'll get the kill. Like I don't understand that.
Was I playing with you when I stole somebody's kill? Like straight up stole it?
Yeah, it was me. That was last week. Son of a bitch!
I apologized.
Hey,
because
listen.
I knew I one tapped somebody and I got the kill marker and I went, oh no, that's not.
And when you're in a blender, every single kill counts, bro, for sure.
Yeah, but it's one of those things of like, it is a better system. It is a better system than it was when it launched, or it was final bullet. Like when it's just straight final bullet, it's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
There's then you get somebody with like a no damage 8,000 round per minute gun, right? And you've got you do most of the damage, and they get this little zip 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 zip, and they get one in there just enough to wreck your kill, and that would be a lot more common in the past.
I used to feel differently about team shooting until I started playing ranked. But like it never failed. Some of those large open areas, I'll be 15 meters in front of my team, up on top of the hill. I'll see somebody out in the middle of the open. I dump a whole magazine into them. I might miss a couple shots. But while I'm literally swapping my mag out, somebody else will come up behind me and go, bop, bop, get the kill. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, dude, come on, man.
Well, here's the thing, right? I think Cold War did this. Was it Cold War or Vanguard? One of these two multiplayers. I think it was Cold War. Black Ops Cold War they did not give you the KD in your stats.
It's EKIA.
They gave you the limbs, and it was the equivalent of getting taps, right? Like if you and your teammate, like if you were team shooting, like it counted, and in a way, it felt better to play. Like, yeah, I know it's good to to know how many you kill, but like that's where you get into these you get into so many of these situations where it's like there's like one bullet that's just like random chance, lag, whatever, however you want to look at it, right? Like all these different factors bullet. That you have no impact on it, and you end up getting like like trash can, irrelevant of the work you did on it. Versus the ED, which really, it's the same as taps, right? It's functionally, taps are functionally the same as that, right? Where it's like you both contributed. Maybe you got a little, you were being a little egregious on like just leaving them there for someone else to put some rounds in before you finish them. But here's the thing. Here's the other thing. It's resurgence mode, right? So leaving somebody on the ground for an extended period of time is bad for two reasons. Right? You're not going to want to do that as much. One is when you full kill someone, you get the ping on the radar, so you can find their teammates.
Is that staying? Do you know if that's going to stay in Resurgence ranked?
It should. I haven't heard. they did not talk about removing that. Okay.
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
So
that
now
could
you
be
want
a
to kill it.
problem.
You want to kill as fast as possible because you want to know where everybody else is.
Sure.
All right. And 2, they come back. So if you aren't quickly working on a team, the odds that that guy you just killed drops back on your ass and goes looking for revenge is higher.
So I wonder how the respawn timers, if they're going to stay the same or if they're going to speed up for ranked play.
I would imagine they stay the same, right? So they gradually increase over time. So like
Sure.
at the beginning, you have like a 15-second timer, and then by the end, it's like 45 seconds before it ticks off.
Feels like it takes forever sometimes, dude.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why you got to run in open crates, right?
Well,
like,
I mean, seriously,
the shit out of stuff.
If you have a problem with the respawn timer, just fucking go play the big map, because then you can just be bought back whenever, and it's not like you have a timer to worry about. It's just a matter of your teammate getting the money to get to the buy station, or a jailbreak, or a flare, or a double fucking gulag, or whatever. I'm sorry. I just need to get that out.
A little salty. It's okay. Get your salty. You got your crackers to go with your saltines.
Oh, big facts.
But I think it's one of those things where I think there's enough mechanics where the taps aren't going to be as egregious. It's not going to be like, oh, we're going to let this guy sit on the ground for like 8 minutes while we run around and do whatever, and you can come over and tap him whenever you get the chance. It's going to be like, you need to be there because I need to know where his teammates are, and I need to not let this son of a bitch respawn. Like I need, or if I have somebody on a timer, right? Like you get a big chunk off the timer if you get that full.
That's another thing I didn't think about. You know, again, I'm not a resurgence guy, so I didn't think about that your timer, if your team's killing, the timer goes faster, yeah?
Right. Yeah, so if you're mixing it up with a team, right, and you're dropping bodies and you've got guys down, your best thing to do is to finish off those bodies and get that timer down and get them back. And so I think the nature of resurgence is going to put a natural limit on how much the intentional taps are going to be a thing.
Sure.
And so I'm not as concerned about the taps. I'm just more concerned about what they're talking about with this non-assisted kill. And I think you're probably right at the end of the day that is related to them or maybe you didn't say this, maybe I said it, but I think that refers to your team gets a kill and you didn't help, right? And so you get some bonus SR for that. I think that's what it's going to be. Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be. But it's just one of those things that at the end of the day, when I look at it, I'm like, that's interesting, right? Like it was one of those line items that I looked at. I'm like, I'm not sure what that means, and I can imagine a bunch of different ways. And I asked about it on Twitter, and I had like 3 different responses of like, oh, it means this. And I'm like, oh, okay. No, it means that. And I'm like, oh, it could be that too.
But you know what? It's kind of like talking to my wife. It's not always what I say, but how I say it. You know what I mean? Like they know
you're still wrong,
but we don't know what they meant. But no, that's it's it's interesting, and I think that ranked resurgence, like you and I both talked about, is going to be a kind of a testing ground for some things and some aspects for big map ranked. And, I hope that we get big map ranked sooner rather than later. But I think, unfortunately, yet again, I'm not saying unfortunate because it's actually good for the podcast. I think you are correct that it's a cycle thing more than anything else. About the time everybody starts getting down on Warzone again, which is going to happen, hey, here's ranked on the big map. Boom. Yep. Everybody's talking about you and playing you again. That's just how they work.
And I think And so, but I'll say this. Here's why I'm not as bummed about it. If they put ranked on a Sheikah, I wouldn't play it. I wouldn't touch it.
Everybody hates that map, dude.
Dude, there's people that love that map.
I don't know any.
Every time I go on my Twitter feed, and every time you see me say Sheikah is the worst map that has ever been invented, bar only Caldera, I get people going in there. Sheikah is great. I love it. We have so much fun. I'm like, dude, I don't smoke. There's not enough Adderall and crack in the world that you could mix with your G Fuel to make that statement true. But clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about.
I wonder if I need to ask my guy if he worked on a Sheikah, because I know for sure he worked on Caldera and he worked on Fortune's Keep.
So. Well, if that's true, I'll edit out. I'll delete what I said. Right? I'll find that out and let me know. I'll remove that.
He's a good sport. He's a good sport. But so it's some interesting things have come up. We've had some interesting conversations this week on Twitter. You and I have had. I feel like every conversation we have is interesting anyway because we're just two interesting guys, right?
Facts.
Another interesting thing that has come out in the last few weeks, and I feel like is sort of taking Twitter by storm in the gaming world, is Pal World.
Oh yeah, Pal World. Well, so you haven't bought you bought it, but you haven't played it yet, right?
Well, I didn't buy it. I have the Game Pass, but I did download it. Yes.
Okay, so you have it. But you have it. You haven't. Played
I haven't dropped in there yet. No.
So I have played it, and do you have? Did you play Pokemon?
I did not
at all.
No.
Okay. So in Pokemon, the premise of the game is that there are these little woodland creatures that run around, and you have these special magical tech balls that you can throw at them, and it will teleport them into the ball, and then you can spend time coaching them and being content and make them your pets and your friends, and that's the whole premise. And then you train them to fight each other in like a sporting environment, right? So think of like arena football, meet the UFC, right, with little critters. So I'm not saying that Pal World is a complete ripoff of that concept, but you have all these little woodland creatures running around, and you throw these little magical balls, tech balls at them, and they transmutate into the little ball. And then when you bring them out, right, they have no free will and will gladly do what you tell them. So you can put them to work building your stuff, farming your fields, fighting your battles, kind of doing whatever you want with them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying what that sounds like personally. If you were to take someone, remove their ability to have free will and over their own choices, and then make them build things and farm fields. But yeah, it's kind of fun. And it turns out you can actually, there's like little human NPCs, and you can catch them and do the same thing with them. Make them sleep on cots outside.
I don't know about that. I don't know about this, man. I don't know.
It's funny to phrase it like that. It is essentially a ripoff of Pokemon. It's like if you take Minecraft and Pokemon and you mix them together. That's what the game is. So you build stuff. You build houses. A fortress for yourself over time. You mine the world around you for resources, and then you catch these not Pokemon. Don't call them Pokemon. And they work. They do work for work around your little castle, and or you can train them into an army and have fun with them. It's an addicting little game. It has all the best parts of Minecraft and all the best parts of Pokemon. And then you can give your Pokemon guns and send them to go raid your neighbor.
Well, I'm glad they came out with that game. And, I see so much on the timeline and just some streams that I watch and everything. I see so much despair and anger when people are playing Warzone in the current state that it's in, as we mentioned earlier. And just I think the biggest thing that I see lacking, even people who are okay with Warzone the way it is joy. And it seems like that game, among a few others, is starting to actually bring joy to people gaming again, because I feel like that aspect of it, ever since the corporatization of these development studios and publishers has gone, it's basically taken that part out of it. It's not about the joy of the gamer anymore. It's not about fun. It's more about psychology and retention than anything else. And I tweeted that earlier this week. And people thought I was just bitching, but I mean, that's a reality of it. Because if it wasn't, then there wouldn't be blog posts like we just had from Call of Duty, where they're talking about outcome, people leaving, experience, outcome, experience, those kind of things. They don't care about joy, they care about retention. And it seems like this game actually cares about joy and brings joy and fun to gaming again to people.
Well, here I'm going to put it on this one is there's a difference between this game and Call of Duty and games like this and games like Call of Duty. Like I'm going to throw Fortnite and Valorant and all these other ones into there as well. Is they're not competitive. Like the game is not a competitive game. You're not out there trying you're not head to head against somebody else, right? Because I think when you're head to head, when you have a competitive game, right, it's all about your skill and then trying to create as much of an edge over your opponent as possible. It's why we have such an emphasis on meta weapons. It's why we have such an emphasis on owning a PC that can drive X number of frames per second, right? It's because it gives you the reason you do that is you have an edge, right? It doesn't it matters if you've got the 4090 and the powerful GPU and you've got the screen resolution and you're sitting, and in your nose is like put a grease mark on your crosshair, right? Because you're sitting that close to it. And the reason the reason that stuff matters is that the other guy is going to do the same thing. And if they aren't doing the same thing, then you have the advantage and you can win the gunfight easier. You can win the battle. You can win the competition. Pal World is not competition. It's not a competition,
You're
right?
just playing.
You're just playing. And yeah, there's risk. You die, you restart, right? Like it's not like, it's not like, oh, you just bounce around and nothing bad happens to you. It's like you poke the wrong bear and you get eaten. Okay. Like it's not, it's not, in my case, I just go out poking bears to see what happens and I die a lot. And so, so it's challenging, right? And it requires effort and dedication on my part, but it's not competitive, right? If I don't poke the right bear, somebody else is going to come along and beat me for it, right? And that's why I think there's room in this game to have fun, to play around, to experiment, to try new things, and frankly just goof off, right? Like I think Warzone doesn't have a lot of room to goof off because no matter what you're doing, like even if you're just out having fun, trying to create content, someone else is not out there having fun. They're trying to break their PR that day. And it doesn't matter like where you are in the game. Like I mentioned earlier at the top of the episode, I played Plunder, man. I dunked on some kids. I sent you a clip of it. And it's like they were just out there trying to play, right? I could feel it. They weren't totally focused on I don't know. They felt like kids. They felt like, new at the game, trying to, maybe they're learning mouse and key for the first time.
You bastard.
And I was just in it trying to, trying to not even break a PR, but I'm just like, I need to get X number of kills with a sniper. I'm having, I want to have fun. I want to, kind of flex a little bit, and just absolutely gave them no chance.
I just listening to you and talking about the competitive side of it, I want to also point out, the player base in part is as much responsible for the current state of this game from a matchmaking standpoint as the developers are. And the reason why is because too many people want to play a game that's supposed to be competitive, but they don't want to fucking have to compete for it. And so they leave and, those kind of things, like, which is why we can't have lobbies in multiplayer that just stay together the whole time. Dude, there was nothing better back in the day than getting revenge on somebody that just shit on your team 2 or 3 matches in a row. And then you leave after you finally beat them. So they, you know what I mean? Like you get the win and you get the hell out. Like nobody wants to really, I don't want to say nobody because there are plenty of us who are competitive and care. But, that's the part about wanting to get better and stuff like that too. So you can be more competitive. But people want to play what's a competitive game where score is kept, but they don't want to compete. And they want to be protected. And that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But Pal World has been fun. I've enjoyed it. I've gotten to do some goofy stuff. And
where are the clips, bro?
I'm not at the point where I've evolved it enough where I can really do some of the really fun stuff that I see other players do. So it's kind of like I watch my, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as the kind of game that I think is fun to watch personally. Like unless I'm intentionally doing something off the wall. I saw a clip I'm going to try next time I boot up. But but it's definitely not. It doesn't have the same feel. It has a feel where it's like, if you want to take it seriously, you can take it seriously. If you want to have fun, you can have fun. And I think that's something that the gaming industry needs a little more of. And I'll be honest, I think there's room for that in Call of Duty. I'm going to call attention to a creator out there, Rolo Polo on Twitter.
Everybody knows that guy.
Everybody knows him now, and I remember when he first dropped, it was like, what just happened? But man, he's out like he's having fun, right? Like
With
I've
his
got a clip,
community too.
yeah, and he's and a lot of people I watch, and I'm like, I can't, like, I can see the anger boiling over in them, like on their stream when they die to him doing goofy stuff.
Oh yeah, I haven't died to him yet. But...
And it's like, I look at some of the ways that they die to him, and I'm like, how could you not laugh when you're done? Like, and that's something that I think we need more of, is we need to be able to laugh a little bit more at the dumb shit that happens to us in this game. I make a point of, like, when I die in a really stupid way, like, especially if it's my own fault, it's never my own fault. It's always a cheater. But if it were allegedly my fault, I'll put it on Twitter. Like, shoot, I just posted one from Verdansk back in the day. Helicopter seat swap team white.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. That shit was. I was like, awesome, dude. He's totally about to get them with that rocket. Nope. I posted one a while back too of I think it was when rank came, or season 3 of the last Warzone, where I died to a fucking loadout dropping on me that I threw. I'm trying to climb up on top of a roof. I thought it was further on the roof. Nope.
Got you.
Yep.
And stuff like that. We need more of that, man. We gotta embrace the fact that sometimes just dumb shit happens, and it can be funny. Yeah. I think a lot of people, they take this game so, and so here's where I'm gonna throw it on the COD community. We take this game so darn seriously that anything that's not, like, perfect, like, we get mad at. And it's like, dude, a loadout fell on your head. Dude, I shot the rotor of the chopper with my rocket. Like, come on, right? Like, it's kind of funny, right? You got to sit there and just gotta, like, I got clips of my whole team has done this. Everybody that my IRL group plays with has done this now. Taking a chopper across Vondel, and a loadout spawns above you and crushes the chopper, and you all die. Straight back to the lobby. Yep. I gave the first guy that did it so much crap. Put it in the text chat. Your pilot's license is revoked. No more flying for you. And then another guy did it. He got hit by. I think he flew into a mortar he didn't see coming. Pilot's license revoked. Gone. And then I'm flying. And I got hit by, I don't know what I got hit by, but I got hit by, probably another loadout drop. Same thing, right? Oh, man. In 3 days, I couldn't open that app for 3 days. So.
Well, yeah, and, the other thing is, too, to put back on the COD community, and it's because a lot of people are competitive, and what I think happens is we end up, I say we as a community, we end up talking shit or talking down to people who maybe aren't quite as good as other people are too.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it.
And look, hey, it's still a competitive game. Yeah, it's an easier competitive game. It's not Valorant. Okay?
No.
It's not CSGO. All right. It's a recreationally competitive game. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's still competitive. I'm still going to talk shit. I'm still going to tell you all the things I'm going to do with your mother after I take her out and then not call her again. All right? When you kill me in the gulag. I'm going to do it, right? It's competitive.
I don't even get to hear the gold in that because I have to mute you.
Yeah, because you're in the gulag, like, shut up.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to hear. And I'm like, either that or I'm fucking, I'm still in the field trying to fight and listen for footsteps. And I hear old Sub over here, God damn this piece of shit. God.
No, it's somebody else you're hearing. Definitely not me. But yeah, it's one of those things of, like, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I think we need to find places that we have fun. I think so. I call out Rolo because I think he does a great job having fun playing the game. Like he's not just trolling everybody, which he is. Which I don't know if you saw him. The previous guest of the podcast, Robeezy, ran into him.
Really?
Yeah, I ran into him, and the guy's trolling Robeezy, and Robeezy gets down, and before Rolo could get up and troll him, he quit out, and Robeezy quit out, and I just started laughing. And I'm like, oh man, I would be equally as pissed in that moment, but Robeezy posted it, and he was having fun with it, and so it was he's bringing a lot of that entertainment value and kind of that fun back in with some of the more competitive players, and I think that's been fun to watch. And some of them are better sports than others, but it's great, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's great. There used to be in Blackout, there was the Blackout Uber driver. I don't know if you're aware of this, but a dude that used to drive around, and we didn't have prox chat, but everybody knew kind of who he was and how he was doing it. And he would give you Uber rides from one location to another. It's the damnedest thing. It was like, that was cool. But something really cool happened to me last night while I was in zombies practicing. I don't know if there's some glitch that people are exploiting or whatever, but like this lady, I know she was a lady because I talked to her on prox chat. She comes up, she starts dropping like racks upon racks, like 200, 400, 500,000 racks worth of money for us. Drops like a couple laser guns, and like just being just like really cool, dude. Like just help. And I hear that, a lot of people are like that in zombies, and it sounds like Rolo might be the opposite of that. He ain't gonna give you nothing but make a clip out of you.
But he's gonna have some fun with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great, and you're right. I think the word we should all be using and emphasizing the absolute most is fun.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing I'll say about zombies, because there's no PvP. I think that toxic element is kind of gone, and it's like, so I run into this. Like, I've done this before, where it's like I come out of a match and I've got like 15 different pop cans and a bunch of other stuff, and I can't use it all, and I have nowhere to store it. So it's like I've gone up to random teams and been like, "Here, have this, have this, have this. None of it. This is no good to me," and because it clogs up my inventory, right? And so there's definitely like, there's no incentive for me to keep it. I might as well help out. And so I've had this happen. Like when I was grinding guns, I did most of my gun leveling in zombies, and then I would go in camos in multiplayer before Warzone dropped. And so I've logged an insubordinate amount of time in zombies, and I have had more than one case where it's like I'm trying to fight a horde of zombies with a terrible gun, and I get myself downed, and somebody that I dropped, somebody that was nearby that I'd thrown stuff to, comes running over and bails me out. So I think there's some positivity. There's a lot more positivity in the zombies modes just because there is no PvP. So that element that wants to compete doesn't go there.
And another thing that is Call of Duty related, I want to point out before we go, because I know we're getting on our time. I don't know if you saw my tweet earlier, but I've had some hot takes when it comes to mouse and key, the mouse and key community over, the last few months, and, aim assist, which I still believe is debatable as far as the need for it. I don't want to get into that. But what I do want to point out is this. My mind has changed on those folks because of the interactions that I've had with a lot of them, both on Twitter and they're coming through my stream. They're just passionate about their input, and they're also extremely helpful, dude. Oh my God. Like, just good people in general, like, have been coming through my stream and offering advice and tips and stuff like that. And I just wanted to mention that I respect that, and, and I appreciate that. And, like I said, I still believe, I disagree with them on the aim assist thing, but like everything else, I do agree with them on. And, the fact that they're just passionate about, their input and, how helpful they are. I don't think there's a more helpful group in the Call of Duty community, personally.
The mouse and key guys remind me a lot of the Volkswagen Beetle enthusiasts, the ones that like the real old ones. They know they don't have the best of the best, but they really like what they've got, and they're very passionate, and they're happy to explain every little detail to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? That's cool, man. I respect that and I appreciate that, So yeah, I just, like I said, I just wanted to point that out before we go.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it's great. It's great that you're trying it out, because I think, I've run it and have dealt with some of the challenges, and enjoyed running it. And I know a lot of the folks that do run it, they there's a lot that you can do with mouse and key that that's very satisfying to do. So I hope your endeavor goes well, and hopefully you will remember us roller players when you're smoking with the old typewriter, and keep us in your thoughts when you start complaining about aim assist. So
No. Listen, I am entirely too stubborn. I will not. I promise you, you won't hear a peep out of me for aim assist. Although last night I was warming up against the bots. The last thing before we go, and I had COD Watchdog. You know him, and I think Kelsa and somebody else, all mouse and key players. And I died to a bot, and I went fucking aim assist. And I was like, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. And they're like, no, clip it. So it was pretty funny, man.
All right. Well, on that one, I want to thank everybody for sticking around. We've reached our time limit, and probably run out of notes here as well. So thank everybody for sticking around. Jay, as always, thank you for all that you bring to the table. You can find him on Twitch and Twitter, both /J007tv. I am once again SuboneKD. Twitch, Twitter, and Kick, same /SuboneKD. I will catch you all in the next one, and thanks for sticking around.